Hi, I'm Greg from Second Thoughts East Yorkshire. As we go through our lives, sadly we will have losses, and with those losses comes grief. It's impossible to avoid grief. If we lived our lives without attachment to anyone, whether that is parents, siblings, foster families, people who look after us, or friends, it would be a sad and lonely existence without any of the positives that love and affection bring. The reverse side of this is that we encounter losses as people drift out of our lives or even sadly pass away. The stronger the love for the person, the greater the sense of loss and despair we feel when it does happen. As well as people, grief can come about from the loss of a relationship or a pet, a job, a possession, a feeling, or even perhaps an ideal such as religious faith, or perhaps a political belief that's proven to be misplaced. Disillusionment. Loss and grief is painful. Some people try to dodge it, try to bury it, refusing to acknowledge it. In reality, though, there's a high price to pay for doing that. The grieving process is biological, psychological, emotional, and spiritual, whatever our faith, religion, or beliefs. And it's very necessary. It helps us to eventually accept what the loss is. It helps us to accept that we must live our lives and acknowledge our own human fragility, our vulnerability, the tough parts of our lives, as well as the good parts. With all things in life, knowledge, insight, and understanding is essential to being able to deal with all challenges, and grief is no different. Understanding and learning about the grieving process is an essential part of recovery. It isn't easy. Indeed, it will be one of the most difficult things you have to do in your life. Accepting grief and going through grieving as a process will help you to find closure with the past and move on. It takes energy, all of your human spirit, and lots of courage to do it. It's important to emphasize, though, that this doesn't mean forgetting the person or whatever you have lost. Far from it. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross invented or created, should I say, a model called the 5 stages of grief. And the 5 stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I'll explain a little bit about each stage. Denial may be trying to convince yourself that the loss hasn't happened. It can't be true. This can't possibly have happened to me. It's okay to be in this stage for a short time. It's natural. Anger can be directed at someone who told you the news, maybe at yourself for not being able to prevent it, or even at the person who's left or possibly passed away. You may also experience flight or fight during this stage too. Upset stomach, shortage of breath. You may even pass out because of the shock. It doesn't mean that you're weak, it's part of the process. The Kubler-Ross model was put forward in order to help therapists and their clients have a common language. The process isn't linear though, and it doesn't go from stage 1 to stage 2, then to stage 3 and so on. People will bounce from one stage to another and revisit stages several times. There's no set fixed pattern and no set time scale either. Everybody is different. Knowing the phases can help you to understand what's happening though, knowing that it's normal, that it will pass, and the phases will come and go. Most importantly, it does get more bearable with time. Now, someone telling you that time heals doesn't help much of the time you're in the depth of grief, does it? But it does. Time does help you to cope with it. So what can you do to manage yourself through this horrible time, to manage the grieving process? As I've said before, understanding any process makes it more bearable, and being able to exercise some control, however small that control is, helps you to feel better. The control can be choosing when to succumb to the feelings, picking who you can open up to, and deciding when to open up to, for example. So here are some suggestions on what you can do. Understand that there are the different phases of grieving. Try to control which elements you can, like times, places, and people whom you open up to. You can help others and help yourself too by talking about the grieving process. Perhaps if you've had a loss several years ago, you may be able to talk to someone else who's experiencing that now. Reach out for support and find like-minded people. For example, there's a group based in Market Wheaton, a new group called Talking About Loss, founded by a lady who has experienced loss herself. They can be found on the net, as can several groups across our region. Pick people to talk to who you can trust and who'll be understanding and give you time. Don't beat yourself up and feel guilty about feeling bereft of any positivity. Please be patient with yourself. Give yourself time and be aware that we're all different. We all take different lengths of time to cope. It's hard to do when you feel like your world has ended, but please take care of yourself. Eat healthily. Go for short walks. You matter to others. Very important this. Try to avoid making life-changing decisions while you are grieving. Things like moving home, getting rid of possessions, particularly jumping into new relationships, or giving up anything that you need to be to live your life. Those decisions need to be made when you're in the right frame of mind and not just a knee-jerk reaction or made when you're feeling really low. Sometimes expressing yourself through words, music, or art may help. Some incredible works have come about through grief. You can use your own grief to help others who face similar ordeals, as I mentioned earlier, as indeed has the lady in Market Wheaton with Talking About Loss. When the time is right, try to slowly resume doing things that you like to do before your loss. It's not being selfish, so please don't feel guilty about finding a little pleasure, a little consolation in doing something that you enjoy. To begin with, loss is on your mind 24 hours a day, particularly if it's a bereavement. And it never stops, even for a few seconds, the person's constantly on your mind. Gradually, though, you'll find that it's not on your mind for a few seconds or a minute, but then you feel guilty because it hasn't been on your mind. That's perfectly natural. Don't feel guilty about that. It's part of the grieving process, it's part of the healing process, and it certainly doesn't mean that you're forgetting the person. Not for 1 second it doesn't. In time, the memories you have of the person, or the thing, or the relationship, or possession perhaps, that you have lost, will bring comfort, and it will bring smiles, and those happy memories are lodged in your heart. There are specialist agencies and charities who can help. Reach out to them to support you if you're struggling with grief. It isn't just people who are paid to provide the support. Many people do that sort of work because they've been through similar losses. They care about you. Please do it. We will all experience losses during our lives. It is part of life, sadly, and we have to be able to cope with it. But it is so very difficult, so please seek help. Thank you for watching the video. I hope it's been helpful. I'll be back over the next few weeks with some more. But please leave a comment on the post and feel free to inbox me for more details of what Second Thoughts East Yorkshire does. We're a registered charity and all of our services are free to individuals. So for now, stay safe, take care and good mental health. Bye.